Well, it took me long enough to get around to this one because I feel like I did say something in my Ophelia review from last year that I wanted to watch this movie and review it too. But Hamlet was released in 1996 and was, of course, directed by Kenneth Branagh, and it stars Kenneth Branagh in a leading role as Hamlet, and is adapted from, of course, William Shakespeare's play. Now, Hamlet has always been my favorite Shakespeare story. I'm very into the drama in it. I think the characters are very interesting, and I really like Kenneth Branagh as a director and actor, and this is also to kind of make up for Artemis Fowl, because I don't think that that was his end product. I really can't see it being, because I mean, he's made movies of varying quality throughout his career, but that movie is just ridiculously bad, and I wanted to see something that I know was highly acclaimed from him. And I'd seen a little bit of this movie in high school, and it's one that has eluded me for 5 years until I finally just rented it and watched it. I think it's well worth the wait. Probably the most intimidating factor of this movie is that it is over 4 hours long. It's 4 hours and 2 minutes long, which makes it one of the longest movies you can find that is traditionally produced by Hollywood, of course. But I think that this movie does a very decent job of adapting Shakespeare. And to go over the things I really like about this movie, I like the cast a lot. Of course, it's a huge cast. It's filled with a lot of A-listers and a lot of Oscar winners and Oscar nominees, where I think I was looking it up, and it said that at this point it has 9 different Oscar winners just for the actors that are in this movie. That's not even including nominations. But it has people ranging from, of course, Kenneth Branagh and Kate Winslet and Derek Jacobi in the leading roles, along with to cameo-esque roles with Jack Lemmon and Brian Blessed, Judi Dench, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal. It has a ginormous cast, and a great cast, and I think that pretty much everybody does a good job. I think that Branagh as Hamlet hams it up quite a bit, no pun intended, little bit of a pun intended there, but he can be kind of over dramatic in the role, but then again, I do see Hamlet as being kind of a dramatic bitch, and Branagh plays him as kind of a big over-the-top dramatic bitch, and so I think there was aspects of him in the role that did crack me up, but I actually found a lot of the supporting roles to be really interesting in their performances, with especially Jack Lemmon. I think did a really good job in just being natural in the role, and Billy Crystal as a grave digger I think was really good. But this movie also looks gorgeous. It was shot on 65mm, which gives it that like kind of grandiose, epic look. And the cinematography is absolutely amazing in this movie. There's some shots that I would want to be like wallpaper on my computer or something like that. And then the production design is amazing. It's one of my favorite depictions of any Shakespearean play's production design. It's kind of my go-to thought for Hamlet now. And I've seen other versions of the story adapted into movies. Of course, one of the most famous is Laurence Olivier's, and I think it's fine. I never really care for Olivier's version that much, and I know that there's going to be people who grew up with that and see that as the Hamlet and everything, and won Best Picture when it came out and all that, but I found it adequate. I think that this movie has more energy to it, and it does the entire play, and it also is kind of a purist play, which works and doesn't work in some ways. And what I mean by that is that the movie's word for word the actual play. It's not changed to be more digestible with current English language. It's the actual to be and not to be, blah 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 blah, all that, all the soliloquies are there and everything. But this movie does have an energy to it that helps get through those 4 hours. And while I did have to pause it at some points to maybe run to the bathroom or something like that, it's a very digestible movie for a 4-hour movie. There are some 3-hour, 3.5-hour movies that are hard to sit through. There are some hour-and-a-half movies that are hard to sit through. I would much rather sit through 8 hours of Hamlet than another hour of Artemis Fowl. And like I said, this movie looks gorgeous with the production design along with the costume design. I think the costume design is fantastic, and that's something I've noticed in the last couple movie reruns I've done. There's been fantastic costume design in a lot of them, so I guess that's something that I'm pretty into. But what I think doesn't really work with the movie is that is once again kind of swinging back to the purist aspect of it, is using every word from the play and everything and doing it in that way. It's acted well, but I think that having to do that like to a T, it does lose a little bit of the nuance of some of the characters, and and sometimes there's some things that don't come across very well. Like one scene in particular that I didn't really care for was Polonius's conversation with Reynaldo, which I know that Kenneth Branagh wanted Gerard Depardieu to be in the movie because he helped with the release of Henry V when that came out, and gave him a small role as Reynaldo, but I didn't think that it really did anything for the movie or for the furthering the story, other than kind of knowing what Polonius is about or whatever. So like, not every aspect of the play digests well, and it's kind of on the play itself too. I don't think people who aren't a fan of the play aren't going to be watching this in their free time, but if they are, I do recommend it. I think it's probably my favorite depiction of Hamlet put to screen. Of course, everybody has their own version of it in their own head when they read it, but I do enjoy this version a lot. I am a fan of a lot of what they did in the movie and what Branagh's choices were. And like I said, the movie moves really well. Not all of it translates from the play to be as grandiose as it's supposed to be and everything, but I think a lot of it does work. And probably my favorite scene in the movie, which a lot of credit goes to Brian Blessed and the way that this scene was shot, was the scene where Hamlet's father's ghost finally talks to Hamlet. I think that had great atmosphere and did a really good job of depicting that scene. I thought it was very interesting. It was very different from what I initially thought in the book, or the story, the play. But I think there's some good performances in this movie. I think that Branagh overall does a pretty solid job of adapting this story, and really the person to beat as far as Shakespeare adaptations go in taking that concept and elevating their movies is Akira Kurosawa, because it's hard to beat Kurosawa with any of his adaptations, most specifically with Ran and Throne of Blood are fantastic movies, and I think those are the ones to beat. I think Branagh does a very, very good job in general with his Shakespeare adaptations. I think he's on the same level, in my opinion, as Laurence Olivier in his own Shakespeare adaptations. But overall, I enjoyed this movie. I think it's a gorgeous movie. Like I said, it's a very solid adaptation of the play, and it's one that I've been wanting to see for a while, and that I did really enjoy overall. I'm going to be rating Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet from 1996 as an 8.5 out of 10. Now, what did you guys think of it? What's your favorite version of Hamlet that you've seen? Let me know, and I'll be back with another video.